A little bit more thought process went into a long-term, it's still going on, project that we've been photographing the Olympics. I got a job, a very strange little job, one of the bizarre stories in my life, to photograph the 1984 Olympics in Los Angeles. And I had, amazingly enough, I took the job mainly because I was an Olympic freak since I was very, very young. I ran track when I was in high school and in college, and so I was, you know, I knew every time, every runner, every, you know, for years and years. I watched it on TV when it became, you know, all of that, all of the famous moments of. So when I came around, time, they said, hey, we need photographs of the 1984 Olympics for our magazine. Would you be interested? And of course I took it up, and that became the beginning. I said, oh, I loved doing it so much that I made it a continuing process. And so every 4 years now, every 2 years, I have to go out and find new clients every time to send me all around the world, which has become a real thing. But I photographed 13 now, summer and winter Olympics, and that's become a real, that gets exhibited also. But it's a strange kind of exhibit because the people that want to see that kind of work are in general not pure artists. That works, that's still going on, but one day, I guess it was coming, it was ongoing, it was coming up to happen. I was standing around my studio, a large studio in what they call now SoWa in Boston, and I had 4 or 5 people working for me, and they were all pecking away at their jobs, at their desk and everything, and I was sort of kicking around. You know, they did all the work, I just sort of, you know, did nothing. And one day we weren't shooting and they were all working, and I went, is this all there is? You know, nobody goes to art school, or nobody goes to school, or nobody says, I want to be a photographer so that I can photograph that computer that's going to go on the cover of an annual report or a magazine. You take up photography thinking that you're going to be at the exhibit at the Museum of Modern Art in New York, or you take up and you say, I want to win a Pulitzer Prize, or you take up your camera and you say, I want to walk the face of the earth with 2 Leicas hanging around my neck. But that was, you know, that's why the passion that brings us to photography. Well, I'm here taking pictures of the annual reports, and I'm doing, you know, okay, I've got people working for me. And I said, is this all there is? And I said, I keep saying I'm going to do something really different, something that makes the fact that I'm a photographer really important. I'm going to address some of the subjects that are interesting to me. And I, for the next year and a half, thought about what could that subject matter be? It's not easy to come up with, you know. I have people come up and say, oh, I'm going to take pictures of chimneys in the desert, or I'm going to take pictures of old decaying buildings, or I'm going to take pictures of, you know, people get into all kinds of things. I wanted to do something that was non-derivative. And it turns out it's really hard to, I think, to come up with that. And I struck upon, one night about 2 a.m. in the morning, I struck upon the idea that I had an argument with my father when I was probably 14 years old or so, over the death penalty. We were looking at TV, he loved the news. My father was a news junkie, so we had the TV on at 6 o'clock in the evening after he came home from work. And one of the announcers says, so-and-so was executed this morning at 12:01 a.m. and he was executed at so-and-so prison and blah, blah, blah. And I was just watching the TV with my father. And my father went, he got what he deserved. And I was like my father's son. And I was sitting there going, yeah, right, he got... Wait a minute. That ain't right. And to this day, I don't know if it's true, but I give it the credit that that was the first time I probably ever disagreed with my father. The first time I realized my father could be wrong. And it stuck with me. The fact that we were executing people just, you know, it starts. It's a little kernel and it just grows and grows and grows and grows. For years it grew. And then one day in Kyoto, Japan, I'm getting ready to get up for a big job in Japan. And I saw something on TV and I just realized that, and that was the beginning of the Death Row Project, which a year and a half later after that, because it's impossible to photograph men and women on death rows. It's absolutely impossible. And that's the challenge. So I spent a year and a half trying to figure out how I could get one photograph of one person on death row, on any death row in the United States. And I finally got into a place in Lincoln, Nebraska. And that dovetailed into 6 years later, 27 men and women in 14 different death rows around the United States, and that became 2 books and gets exhibited. I even talked about it this afternoon at West Palm Beach workshops.